you can be a millionaire with Daily Millions. Just pick 5 numbers from 1 to 26 or make a quick pick and the jackpot can be yours. Buy as many tickets as you like. Play as often as you wish. There's no limit to playing Daily Millions. You can win up to $1 million per day, especially with the new game. There is no reason not to play Daily Millions. Whatever you do, don't forget to buy your Daily Millions. Remember, a ticket a day could make you rich today.
Football compete this year as over 150 teams battle to win the Digicel School Football Championship 2014. Over $9 million in cash and prizes. The battle is on. Come with us throughout the 10 regions of Guyana as we see who will dethrone the two-time champions. Whitmer, Christiansburg Secondary. Come on out and support your favorite teams as they unite, develop, and excel. See Pressford game fixtures and check us out on Facebook on Digicel GUY for more details.
Is it possible to improve on nature? At Clearwaters, we do. We start with pure artesian well water. Then we triple filter it. Next, we UV sterilize it. Then ozonate it. So that what we bottle for you is microbiologically safe in every way and assured quality every time. Oh, we also recycle our bottles, helping to preserve the environment. Clearwaters, winners of the International Quality Crown Award in London. Clearwater wins with purity, and the environment wins when you recycle.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to NCN Sports Magazine. I'll tell you what, tonight I really wanted to bring some boxing. Men's and women's fight over 3 rounds, but we'll leave that for another program. But tonight, Guyana's football. We have here 2 members of the Guyana Football Federation Executive, Mr. Christopher Matthias, the President, Mr. Lyndon France, Technical Development Officer. We were hoping to have Mr. Keith Ogier, Executive Member. Unavoidably, he's absent. But we are so happy to have these 2 gentlemen here with us. We have a number of questions to ask, and we need some clarifications and so forth. And of course, later on the program, we're going to open the telephone lines, 226-2691, 225-8025. We're going to take your calls. You're going to have some queries, of course, some concerns, some questions, some comments, some suggestions, observations, whatever they are. And we're going to open the lines to facilitate you. Of course, during the course of the program, we're going to have the NCN Sports Magazine Roundup with Travis Seymour. But let me tell you first up, don't forget that the Lima Call CPL 2014, Day 3, tomorrow, Thursday, July 17, 2 matches. The first game is in Antigua Hawkbills, that's the Antigua Hawkbills versus Jamaica Tallowers at 15 hours 30 or 3:30 p.m. And then the second game in Guyana, National Stadium, Providence, Amazon Warriors, Guyana Amazon Warriors versus the Red Steel, 7:30 p.m. or 19 hours 30. Don't forget, Lotto's Cricket and Phone Quiz will be on at 12:35 p.m., 12 hours 35. All right, Mr. Matthias, Mr. France, good evening. Welcome to the program.
Good evening, Edwin, and thanks for having us here this evening.
Good. Now, yes, Mr. France, the man from Buxton, right?
Yes, sir.
Lovely. All right. Now, your tenure started in April, or there about April 2013. That's over a year now. And from all reports, it's been a torrid tenure. But in a nutshell, I want you to tell me, out of all of this, what have been some of the positives over the, let's say, 15-month period?
Edwin, simply put, we were able to assess exactly the state of Guyana's football, see exactly what is wrong with it constitutionally, at the level of the administration, and at the level of management, at the level of players, at the level of the marketing of the sport. And indeed, Guyana's football has had a most horrible history. Despite the efforts of FIFA, and more so our history. Let me put it this way. The GFF was established in 1902, and the objectives established in the Constitution says we are to develop, to improve, promote, regulate, and control the sport of association football throughout Guyana. FIFA has a similar objective. Each member association ought to control and develop the sport. But there is a great objective. Somewhere along the line, somehow, the guys in Europe decided that football must be the platform for human development and ultimately social development. So it was social development through human development using the platform of football. What is this social development we're talking about? We're talking about having our players learn the lessons of life through football. Discipline, teamwork, respect, fair play, the sciences of the game as in geometry, the physiology, biology, nutrition, and those things, creating a wholesome environment where our youth can be meaningfully occupied.
So you said that was not happening, or it was not happening as it ought to have happened?
Well, it wasn't happening at all. Neither the end game, which is the holistic social development, nor the football development itself. So let me say to you, and I brought you this little gift. This was our financial assistance in the last 15 years.
From 1998 to 2012. This is a lot of money here. I can hardly call the figures.
Well, the guys in Europe said, look, let us not ask them to do things without assisting them. So we will assist them financially. Now, Edwin, let's gaff. If you're going to develop football, there's some basics you must have. A vision, proper teachers, qualified coaches. You ought to have disciplined players. You ought to have club structure. You ought to have resources. You ought to have proper playing surfaces, as my technical development officer would tell you. And you ought to have that whole environment for the technical and tactical development of the game. This document establishes that in the last 15 years, none of those things occurred. So while the guys in Europe, FIFA and those guys said, we want to kill two birds with one stone, we want to have football development and human and social development, we, in this part of the hemisphere, decided we were not going to be committing to any of those things by the posture and history of our conduct. We have 108 teams, no properly structured clubs. We have basically about 5 qualified coaches in this country talking about certified in B license.
So this is what you met when you took over?
This is what we met when we took over.
But then you were part of the
Georgetown Football Association, yes.
So you would have had at least some sort of input in that association.
Yes.
So what was happening there? Because it all starts there at the grassroots level. What was happening there quickly?
Well, let me tell you quickly. It was deemed by the past president, Mr. Colin Class, at the best administration in football was the Georgetown Football Association.
Of which you were a part?
During my tenure. And I say that without fear of condemnation. Yeah.
All right. So during the past 15 months, you took over, you're trying to put things in place to achieve these objectives.
Those objectives.
All right. Now, you've sent on the 17th team, it was Dominican Republic. I think the first match is on Friday.
Very much so.
Let's bring in the technical director. How good is that team? What are the chances? Because I'm telling, go ahead before I make my comment. Go ahead.
If I'm to judge it on the quality of the best associations in CONCACAF, I wouldn't see us as one of the best. But at CFU level, I would say we stand a very good chance. A couple of things has been happening over the last few years to Guyana, and that's one, that we have had players with greater structure. We have had the instructors giving better instructions. As a result of that, we are having better teams going forward. But it's sadly lacking, like you refer to the grassroots. when you speak to the long-term development of an athlete, it really starts in some parts of the world from about 6 months. They're saying from about 6 months to 6
So
years.
are we saying then that the result of this on the 17th team, when we get the results, the matches, it will give us a good idea really where we are?
Well, we don't only need the result to give us a good idea, because today there's so many information or so much information that we can use to measure. For example, like we look at the World Cup, you'd have seen that almost all the countries, the athletes were able to physically perform at a certain level for 90 minutes. That's because there are parameters to be met that says, here am I as an athlete to perform at this level in terms of your aerobic capacity, in terms of power, in terms of strength, and these are
But how prepared is this team? Quickly.
our team.
Yeah,
I think we're good enough to qualify from this group.
We're good enough to qualify. All right, fine. Now, Mr. Matthias, we're talking about the tenure, the 15-month tenure. No confidence motions that, FIFA said that was null and void. Resignations, calling for your head, and that sort of thing. Tell us quickly. Mr. Ralston Adams, he was one of the vice presidents and he resigned.
Definitely.
What actually happened there? Again, we don't want to elaborate too much, but tell us what really happened.
It is not an issue of Mr. Ralston Adams. It is an issue of a Congress that wanted several persons to be president. And I became the president after a free and fair and democratic elections. What would have happened immediately upon my being elected? I was given an executive comprising persons who either had their own desire and interest to be the president, or had a desire for someone else to be the president. Immediately, that was a recipe for disaster. So, from my office, I would have done everything humanly possible to create that environment of unity. But if it was not a case of their personal ambition and desire, it would have been either the influence or the pressure from the third-party sources who were saying, we put you there to have this done. Well, we can't forget that Ralston Adams was on the slate of Mr. Troy Cadogan. And when Troy Cadogan pulled out, he supported Mr. Aubrey Shanghai Major, both himself and Vanessa Dickinson. You can't also forget that Collie Hercules wanted to be the president, and his constituents said, Collie, you're not ready administratively, run for the vice presidency position. But that did not deny him from wanting to be the president. Ivan Prasad wanted to be the president and ran for the presidency and the vice president position just in case it was a hit and miss situation.
So you're saying that because of all of this that was happening prior to the elections, that they were throwing some hard cards now?
Well, this was basically it.
So did it reach a head that you had sent a lawyer's letter to Mr. Adams?
Of course. There's one thing we would not stand for. It's maligning of anyone's character nor image. And most ridiculously, it would have been peddled by the Honorable Lester Seeley, and I would have expended $1.3 million to refurbish my office.
Yes.
Well, we have the bills there. And I think the entire media fraternity would have had access to my office and would have seen on my office is a sparse environment, very sparse. The bills are all there. And he peddled the same information that I spent 1.3. So I asked him to retract the statement, and he said he wasn't going to. Now, we usually speak from knowledge, from fact, and from evidence. It is something we are encouraging the footballing fraternity to adopt, simply because gossip has been used to control and enslave most, if not all, of the members of the football fraternity.
So Mr. Adams is not there. Mr. Ivan Prasad, technically, he may still be a vice president, but is he attending meetings and so on?
No, he's not, but he's sending me emails, requests for us to be friends on LinkedIn or Facebook.
So then Mr. Hercules, and he's on suspension.
But the Congress suspended him, yes.
That's the situation with the Upper Demerara Football Federation and so forth. Now, that was a GFA tournament?
It was a national tournament, Mr. Siraj, and the evidence is there. Lyndon would have given permission to Georgetown for them to play in their jurisdiction, and also for their clubs to play within the tournament. The Congress decided that there will be no two finals. There's no part of the world where you have two finals. You won't have two finals in NBA. You won't have two finals in NFL. You won't have two finals in Wimbledon. You won't have two finals in the World Cup. And so when they said you shouldn't have two finals, the Congress spoke. Now they would have asked, Mr. Solomon would have asked, for me to disregard the Congress. And the telephone records are there of the number of conversations we would have had. And if he wants to be honest, he will tell this nation the truth about what was really behind hosting the two tournaments, and more so the efforts my office would have made to ensure that both tournaments would have played without incident.
So with all this happening, Mr. France, Mr. Ivan Prasad is, you know, in one way and out in the other way. Mr. Hercules on suspension, Mr. Ralston Adams resigning and so forth, and probably there may be others and so on. What is causing you to stay, for instance?
Well, I'm an employee of the GFF. I'm not a part of the executive.
But everybody moving away. Why is it that you just say, well, listen, let me just...
But outside of that...
What's keeping you? The salary is keeping you, or football?
Well, it might be strange, but my salary is pretty small.
Okay, so
What's keeping me is my love
all right.
for the development of the human being. And here am I given an opportunity to contribute to that development through the medium of sport, and in this case, football.
Good. While we are on the resignation and so forth, you did mention that there might be some third parties and so forth. My impression is that there are others outside that are not coming to front, but they're the ones that are, as the old people say, pushing the fire, right? And we can call names, you know, like Mr. Klaas, and the names, Mr. Lumumba, Mr. Obi Shanghai, Mr. Alfred King, and so forth. Is that so?
Well, let me say this to you.
You feel so that there might be others that were, as you're saying, that were hoping to become president?
It is the view of many of the football pundits that is so. In fact, FIFA is concerned that might be the situation and would have been looking at it with a very critical eye.
All right, as we said, we're going to open the telephone lines later on the program. You will get a chance to know you're listening, 226-2691, 225-8025. The Federation, you're still in some serious debt? You are?
We inherited the debt.
Yes.
If you look at the last figure, we would have received in 2012, before I came into office, and you could see the figure there. How much is it?
340 million.
2012 at the bottom?
Income 314,000.
Million.
Sorry, 314 million.
So in 2012, the then President, Frankie Wilson, would have received $314 million.
2012 alone.
2012 alone. And then we would have incurred in that same year an additional debt of approximately close to 50 million. We owe Princess Hotel, we owe NCN, we owe, and I learned that subsequent, we owe Connections Travel, we owe Windjammer, we owe Signature Inn, Pegasus Hotel.
No, the list is long here, so you should tell me who you don't owe, you know, because the list...
It's tremendously long. Even our Shanghai Major, he has laid claim that we owe him, and so...
Well, you know the players too, you owe the players
We owe the Golden Jaguars.
Good, let's come to that. You owe the Golden Jaguars someone. How much money?
It's about 1.7 or 1.8 million, to the best of my knowledge.
Without Guyana dollars?
Guyana dollars, yes.
So what happened? When you hope to pay them?
We will be paying them. We will be paying.
You have the money.
We will be paying them. We expect the money very shortly, but we'll be paying every one of our creditors. And at this point, it is fitting for us to say, thanks to all those persons who've extended patience with us, recognizing that this debt was not created during our tenure. It was previous, as far back as 2010, but they have been patient with us. In fact, I saw a lawyer's letter that came in March of 2013, and I only was made visible to me this year. And I wondered why a letter which came from one of the people that we owe would have been placed in a drawer. A lawyer's letter. Yeah, Princess Hotel wrote us. And it's only because of the measure of integrity and professionalism, we would have gone to all, if not all, most of our creditors and spoke with them. We owe Night Rider Bus Service as far back as 2011 and 2012.
So you're going to pay the players?
We are going to
You're supposed to draw down some money from FIFA, the World Cup. How much money?
Yes. The estimated figure is basically at least 100 million. It's Guyana dollars.
100 million?
Guyana dollars, yes. That is a figure that has gotten everyone excited. We've been transparent and we told the entire nation. Prior to now, no one would have known that would have arrived here. We told the
nation. And how early you expect the money?
Well, we expect at least part of it before the month is ended. It should be here, July, August. And then sometime in either December or January, the remaining.
And you expect to honor your debts and
to develop the clubs and players here.
All right, just before we go for a break, another thing that is happening around the world, especially in the so-called third world countries. Ghana is a good example, Cameroon and so forth. It may be happening in the other developed countries, but perhaps not to that extent. But we get a feeling that federations, I don't want to use the word ripping off, but they're not giving the players, for instance, their due. The people from Ghana, they're saying that, listen, I mean, these are footballers. They're not small guys like I am. They're traveling economy class. But the president of Ghana, the Football Federation, and his wife and children are traveling first class. It was in the newspapers. They had to send their money. This guy said, we're not playing until the money arrives, the actual money, we ain't taking any checks. Which means they're having problems with the federation. Same thing with Cameroon, people are saying the same thing in Guyana, whether it was Mr. Klaas, whether it was Frankie Wilson, whether it was Matthias. You get what I'm saying? So what are we doing, to put these fears?
Addressing that immediately, and I would want to say that has not been something which characterizes our stewardship. France has a program in Buxton, and he expends hundreds of thousands of dollars of his savings and finances with the support of the Buxton community to ensure that his youths are properly geared. They go to school, whether it's GTI or University of Guyana, the whole holistic development. He does that. Our history precedes us. When we came into football in 99, 2000, thereabout, thanks be to Bang's age, we had the football was playing for $100,000. Under my stewardship, and all praise be to God and to him and him alone, the prizes went to 500 first prize, 3 second prize, 2 third prize. We fast forwarded to, and during that period, then we were the first people to ask for parents' fees for the clubs. Fast forward to 2010, we had the Bangsbury tournament again. Inaugural prizes of $3 million first prize. And then the second Bangsbury tournament, where we put in the rules that if you don't make the top 4 and the prize monies were about $4 million then, first prize, then at least 33% of the net profit will be divided among the clubs who don't make the top 4. So we've always embraced a posture and a conduct which says it's about the players. It's about the players.
That's
it will
right.
always
that's
be
right.
about the players.
It must not only
It'll always be about the players.
The administrators must be paid, if you're reaching stipend or what have you, and you must enjoy certain benefits and so forth. That's fine, but it must trickle down also to the players.
Yeah.
Players
but it shouldn't trickle down. It should
flow
down.
Flow down.
It should flow
to the players. And a good thing is, well, as soon as you get this money, I was glad to see a photograph in the newspapers and write the press and say, listen, we're paying the players.
The Golden Jaguars.
Yes,
definitely.
paying the Golden
Definitely.
No, quickly. Government's interference, so to speak. A few people saying, listen, we don't want the government to interfere. Right? To an extent, I would say. Now we have a situation in Nigeria where they, arrested the president and so forth, or the football federation there and what have you. But at the same time, if your country is not performing well, and government, no doubt, pumping money into football or what have you and so on, they will want answers. Now let's take the situation in Trinidad. The Trinidad Football Federation owed the players since 2006. The government, probably just before the World Cup final, decided, look, we are going to pay the remaining amount of money, 1.3 million US. Yeah. We heard nothing, at least in the news, from FIFA or from the Trinidad Federation, where we don't want any government interference. But anytime the government comes and say, listen, let's call this president, you know, let's hear what's happening and so forth, but here, no interference. How do we justify that one?
I
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to see FIFA is cognizant of the fact that the football cannot develop in any country without a real high level of collaboration between the Football Association and the government.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
And so when it speaks to interference, it is of the type where, for example, you want to dictate who is the president.
No, but that's wrong. That's wrong.
Good. But FIFA, there's a program that FIFA goes around the world and conduct calls Community. And the community program is geared where representatives from the government must attend. Just last year, I think it was the sports minister of Guyana was invited to a program in
Cayman.
in the Cayman Islands
Sports Summit.
because of the recognition of the role government plays in the development of the sport. There is and must be that level of collaboration.
you must
but
have
there
some
is also a
A
line.
line, yeah,
that
you must
are
have a line.
asked
You
not
must
to
have a line.
cross.
I'm committed. What about the gold project now? Because we're talking about the government. I know the government will have some input and so. The gold project, man. What's happening with that?
Graciously, the government would have, through its Minister of Culture and Sports, Dr. Anthony, would have extended an offer for us to come and occupy part of the parcel of land at the Lenora site. And we would have done practically everything that would have been asked of us. And then, for some unknown reason, there were 4 additional things asked for us. When we thought we
Asked for
would
by
have done-
FIFA?
Asked by the Honourable Minister.
Oh, the minister.
And there are 4 basic things he would have asked, which FIFA find, 3 of them which FIFA finds not so basic. One, we must incorporate ourselves. We must become GFF incorporated. Secondly,